Hello all performers, hope you're having a great day. This video we're going to talk about how Jordan Spieth won the British Open. And I mean, if you followed me for any amount of time, you know I'm a huge sports fan, and I love to draw the parallels between what world-class and professional athletes do and how we can use those strategies and those concepts to get better results in our lives, personally and professionally. So if you're not a golf fan, I'll try and simplify it for you. If you are a golf fan, this will all make perfect sense to you. But you know, the British Open just got done, and Jordan Spieth is an unbelievable young American player. Has already won a couple of major championships, but he's let a couple slip away here recently as well, where he lost a big lead in the Masters a couple of years ago. He didn't play a good final round in the Masters this year, and he was leading by 3 shots in the British Open this year, and started off just horribly, where I think he was 2 over par going into the 13th hole, gets to the 13th hole, hits his drive about 100 yards right of the fairway. And for you and I, when we go out there, we can hit drives that are 100 yards left or right of the fairway. It's what we do, but we're not professionals. And for a professional to hit it 100 yards right of the fairway is just almost unheard of, especially when you're leading in a major championship and when you're that caliber of a player. So he's far, far right of the 13th fairway. He's already not playing well. He's only tied for the lead after blowing a 3-shot lead, and has lost, a couple of majors in a row. And he ends up, at that point, he takes an unplayable lie that I'll describe more in a little bit, ends up making a bogey, and then goes on one of the greatest closing stretches in major championship history, where he plays the last 5 holes 5 under par, ends up winning by at least a couple of shots, and just totally turns it all around. But how do the greatest athletes and how do people actually do that? And I think there are so many lessons that we can learn from it, because you just look at how he was playing that day, and he gets to the 13th hole and he hits that drive. And to me, if you want to talk about a defining characteristic of why the greatest players truly are the greatest players, is he's actually able to stop himself in that situation, and he's able to have kind of the poise and the wherewithal to say, you know what are my options in this situation, not letting the moment get too big for him, because I'm sure he was kind of flustered by already not playing well and then hitting that drive, and say, you know what? How can I get out of this hole, to the best of my ability and not make worse than a bogey, and then hopefully turn it around from there? So what he chooses to do is he takes an unplayable lie where he goes back, basically line of sight between him and the hole, where he's more or less hitting from the practice tee, and hits it up there and then makes a bogey on the hole. But you've seen so many people, athletes in all types of sports, where they start out and they're not playing well early on, they're having a bad game, and they can't right that ship, and once it starts going bad, it just keeps getting worse and they can't turn it around. And I think if you look at the intangibles of Jordan Spieth and why he's one of the youngest people to win one of the youngest players to win the first 3 legs of the Grand Slam in golf, or win 3 legs out of the 4 major championships. That's one of the biggest reasons why, is because when he gets stuck in a situation like this, he's able to actually say, you know what, how can I get out of this, and then how can I flip the switch, and how can I turn it around? And as far as how this applies, I feel like to our own lives, we've all had days, or we've all had things where things might not be going well. Like maybe you're just having a bad day and it seems like everything that you're doing is just going downhill and like nothing's working out for you. Or maybe you're in sales, or you're trying to grow, or you're trying to build a business and the numbers just aren't what they should be, and you're more or less just on a cold streak and things aren't going the way that you want them to. And I've always said that, without performers, one of the greatest skills we can all have is self-awareness. And is that ability to say, when things aren't going well, I recognize that my thoughts are not serving me. I'm able to stop it, and I'm able to basically step back, to reevaluate, and then to chart the most positive course of action forward, to be able to move kind of into that positive direction, rather than to just continue to let it spiral out of control. And I think Jordan Spieth probably does that better than anybody, and that's why he's had the success he has. So that's the first one. And then the second point that I'll also throw in is, especially in professional golf, I feel like caddies probably get the least credit of anybody out there. And if you know the story behind that, like when he was at that 13th hole, he thought he had 270 yards to the hole. It turned out he only had about 230. He wanted to hit 3-wood. His caddy told him to hit 3-iron. He ended up hitting it up just short of the bunker, and then he got it up and down for his bogey. But having people around you that you trust, that will give you the advice that you need to hear and not just agree with you and tell you what you want to hear, I think is an extremely powerful thing. And you know what? With Jordan's caddy, I think they have an unbelievable relationship there where obviously Jordan trusts him when he tells him to do something, especially when it's all on the line, when the pressure is all on you and you're in the thick of a major championship. Like, you really have to have a lot of trust with that person. And I think we can all benefit from having people in our lives that we trust, that we know are going to give it to us straight, not just agree with us without, even thinking about it, but people that are going to say, you know what, you should do this instead of doing that. I think it's an incredibly powerful thing. So those are really two different strategies that you can use and you can take to the bank to be able to benefit you in your own life. You know what, really look and be able to, when things aren't going well, have the poise and have the wherewithal to step back, to reevaluate, to chart your course going forward, and then also to surround yourself with good people, people that you trust, and people that are going to tell you what you need to hear and not just what you want to hear. You do those two things, you might not be Jordan Spieth, you might not win the British Open, but I promise you're going to perform better in your personal and professional life, and you are most certainly going to outperform the norm. So if you like what you heard in this video, please head over to scottwelle.com. That's SCOTTWELLE.com. I'm sure wherever you're watching this, there'll probably be a link for it somewhere on the page as well. And I hope you have a great day. And as always, best of health, happiness, high performance. Have a great one.